Today we gather to celebrate 200 years of faith, service, and hope at Our Lady of Grace Monastery. This sacred place was born in 1825 from the vision of Father Vincent de Paul Merle, a priest who survived the French Revolution and, missing passage on a vessel departing Halifax, found himself in Nova Scotia in the spring of 1815, where he found refuge at the residence of Bishop Burke. Bishop Burke welcomed Father Vincent and assigned him to the Acadian communities of Pomkit, Tracadie, and Harver-Bushy that were without the pastoral care of a priest. Father developed a vision for a monastery on this rugged, unfamiliar soil of Little Tracadie. In 1825, Father Vincent's dream took shape. With a handful of Trappist companions, he established Petit Clairvaux Monastery at Little Tracadie. Alongside the monks, Father Vincent founded a small convent of Trappistine sisters, dedicated to teaching local children both in faith and in the basic skills of life, a sign that education and spirituality would grow hand in hand here. This Trappistine convent is depicted in the artistic drawings of Father Luke, the author of Pioneer Monks of Nova Scotia. Following Father Vincent's death in 1853, his successors continued his vision. With support from Westmalle Abbey in Belgium, Petit Clairvaux grew and flourished. By the 1870s, it had become the oldest established Trappist monastery in North America, with a thriving cloister of 45 monks. They lived lives of simplicity and prayer, supporting themselves through farming and trade. Then came tragedy. In 1892, fire swept through the wooden monastery buildings, destroying all but the determination of the monks. They rebuilt in stone, only to lose their farm buildings to another fire in 1896. By 1900, weakened in numbers and resources, the Trappists moved to Rhode Island, leaving the monastery silent, though for a short time. Another group of French Trappists found refuge here before also departing in 1919. A postcard photo from that era depicts the significant restorative work carried out by the Trappists prior to their return to France. After 2 decades of quiet, life returned in 1938 when Augustinian friars arrived from Germany, escaping Nazi persecution prior to the Second World War. They found the monastery in disrepair and set about restoring it with prayer, labor, and the help of the local community. In those first months, the friars patched roofs, cleared fields, and rebuilt barns, all while keeping the rhythm of prayer that would be the heartbeat of the restored monastery. The first winter tested them with cold and scarcity, but the welcome of nearby families, Sunday dinners, and shared faith bridged language and culture, forging bonds that would last for decades. By the mid-1940s, the Augustinians could look back with gratitude and astonishment at all that had transpired. They had transformed a derelict property into a thriving monastery, complete with a productive farm, a retreat house, and a close-knit community respected by neighbors. In 1947, less than a decade after the arrival of the Augustinians in 1938, Father Luke Strepfer published Pioneer Monks in Nova Scotia. As a member of the founding Augustinian group, he wrote with the authority of his lived experience. He had personally witnessed the challenges of rebuilding monastic life on the Trappist legacy. By the late 1940s, the monastery thrived. A productive farm, a growing community, and the opening of a retreat house brought visitors seeking rest for body and soul. In 1939, Father Aurelius Stengel arrived from Germany and soon became known as Father Stinger for his passion for beekeeping. Starting with just 2 colonies, he built up 28 hives, producing over 1,000 pounds of honey a year by 1945. His gentle care for the bees and his orchard work became a symbol of the monastery's harmony with nature, remembered fondly long after his return to Germany in 1965. From 1948 onward, retreats welcomed clergy, lay people, teachers, and youth, blending silence, prayer, and practical workshops in the Augustinian tradition. A group photo from 1957 depicts a group of men from St. Paul's Parish in Harver-Bushy attending a weekend retreat. In 1952, the friars formalized devotion at the Old Holy Spring, creating the Our Lady of Grace Shrine, a place where pilgrims came to pray, draw water, and seek Mary's intercession. By 1960, a new chapel rose beside the monastery, built through community generosity, blessed on the Feast of the Holy Cross, and dedicated to Our Lady of Grace. Bishop William Power's words that day called the chapel a beacon of faith built on the prayers and sacrifices of many, and so it has remained. For over a decade, Good Counsel Academy educated young men in faith and academics, blending classroom learning with the spiritual rhythm of monastery life. Though it closed in the mid-1960s, its alumni remember it as a place of faith, discipline, and lasting friendships. Founded at the monastery in 1957 under the direction of St. Yves's accountant Clarence Chadwick, the secular order allowed lay people to live Augustinian spirituality. By 1982, it had grown to over 60 members, strengthening ties between the monastery and the wider church. In 1972, the monastery reopened an unused wing as Recovery House, an addiction treatment center. The monastery's quiet grounds and holistic approach quickly became known as a place of hope and healing for men confronting their deepest struggles. By the late 1990s, only a handful of elderly friars remained. The once active farm, retreats, and ministries had become difficult to maintain. In September 2000, the last friars departed for Mary Lake, Ontario, which had become the central hub for the Augustinians in Canada. After the Augustinians departed in 2000, the monastery did not remain silent for long. Maronite monks arrived and gave the monastery new life. By 2006, however, their small numbers and aging community made clear their stay would be temporary. In June 2007, after 7 faithful years, they prayed a final liturgy and departed. In 2007, a new chapter opened at Our Lady of Grace Monastery when a small group of contemplative Augustinian nuns from Rho arrived. Led by Mother Superior Gloria Camelon, many of the sisters were originally from the Philippines. Their presence was deeply felt as they quickly became custodians of both the monastery and its spiritual traditions. In the spring of 2018, unsettling rumors became a reality when Our Lady of Grace Monastery was publicly listed for sale. This proposed sale was initiated by lay representatives of the Augustinian Fathers Ontario, Inc., who held legal title. In the summer of 2018, hope came from afar. Prior Father Anthony Pizzo and his executive officers of the province of Our Mother of Good Counsel in Chicago accepted an invitation to visit the monastery to meet with the local steering committee. A purchase agreement was reached allowing the Augustinian nuns to continue their contemplative prayer life at Our Lady of Grace Monastery. In August 2022, in declining numbers and with some members experiencing ill health, the Augustinian nuns were called back to Rome and relinquished ownership of the monastery property to Our Lady of Grace Monastery Foundation. In this 200th anniversary year, we look forward with hope as the Augustinian contemplative nuns of Cebu prepare to re-establish a community at Our Lady of Grace Monastery, renewing the circle of prayer and presence. The 200th anniversary of Our Lady of Grace Monastery coincides with the election of Pope Leo XIV, whose roots are deeply shaped by the Augustinian tradition. Just as the past was shaped by Augustinian friars and nuns, the future of the monastery will be strengthened by the wider church under a pope who shares the Augustinian heritage of Our Lady of Grace Monastery.